What do we got popping here for the community freestyle?
We got one from Thomas Lee.
Okay.
Artist name, LQL. He said he's up on all the platforms and stuff, so feel free to check him out.
Dope.
And he sent this in here. It's titled Setup Punchline Practice.
Dope. LQL, let's go.
Yeah.
On the mic, I'm constantly emergent. One day I will be the motherfucking freestyle spokesperson. I'm succeeding, Harry Mack, you better know that I'm too brave. On this mic, I'm causing a wave. I create when I do this. I'm staying active. I be the king in this shit. I'll get a palace, and that is right. More freestyles, I'm about to bag in my brain. Right now I don't wanna brag too much, cause look, I feel it's tense. My mind is too tense. It's hard to be in the state of zen. It's hard to really grip on the mic with no pen, but one day, this will all make sense. I know that. My shit has no limit, and one day my greatness, I will be the first one to witness. You better know that. I now you hear that. I tear raps, cleaning out my earwax, so there's no hearing loss. When I do this, I never stop. This shit is recurring. I know the current situation is that I'm not really deserving of all of the praise. That doesn't matter. One day I will be based. I will play this shit in my way, like Frank Sinatra. I'm causing all the drama. That's right.
Yeah.
Ooh, my way like Frank Sinatra. That was sick.
Wow. Sick dismount.
Hell yeah. Dope, man. Shout out to LQL. Thank you for the submission. Awesome work, my friend. Yeah, I'm hearing the setup punchline thing happening. You're successfully incorporating all of the words, which is awesome. So yeah, I also really liked your voice. I like that vocal tone, kind of higher pitched, really cuts through. I mean, I've always enjoyed that higher pitch vocal tone, like, and I think it's, like Big L, for example, such a hard, like menacing street dude, but yet his voice is like more of that high pitch, and it gives it this really cool, like almost like comic book quality. Jay-Z also had a higher vocal tone. I mean, obviously I love Biggie, who has a deep, low vocal tone. So, I like all of it, but I particularly enjoyed your vocal tone. That was sounding fire. And yeah, and I liked the delivery in terms of the energy you're putting behind the bars and what you're saying. Like, you didn't sound timid, you didn't sound quiet. It was like your voice was well blended to the instrumental. And yeah, that shit actually sounded good too. I was curious how you were recording it, because it sounded like full. It was like a nice audio recording, which I appreciated. And yeah, I mean, dude, you're making it happen. You're finding those rhyming connections most of the time. I think the advice that I would give to you is maybe similar to some of the advice I've given to other submissions in the past, where, I think for you, it's kind of about cleaning it up a little bit, which what I mean when I say that is like getting it a little bit more under your control in terms of the placement of the rhyming words, because you had a lot of like over the bar line kind of washy phrasing, where it was like I felt like you were searching for the rhyming word, like maybe you weren't exactly sure what it was going to be yet. So you're affording yourself that little extra bit of time to find it, which is great. That's a good strategy. And you were making it sound natural enough to where it wasn't like it was jarring or unmusical. It actually worked. But ideally, as you continue to practice this stuff and your sort of like rhyme vocabulary gets a little bit more solidified, a little bit stronger, you're a little quicker to find those rhyming word options, you can really take control of like creating these nice, clean couplets where you're placing the rhyming words very intentionally, right where you want them to go. And, I talk a lot about how kind of the basic placement for the rhyming word in the beginning would be like on or near count 4 of the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, rhyme, divine, flowing off the top of the brain. I'm spitting flames. Tell the sound man to be turning up the gain. That's kind of the basic way to do it. It doesn't have to stay there, right? But over time, you can place the rhyme wherever you want. You could place it on 2. You could place it on 3. You could place it in a different place every time. You can get as wild with the style as you want, and I encourage that. But I do think it's really powerful to get to a level of skill and control where you're able to actually decide in advance and say, hey, I'm going to put it on the 4 every time. Or for this next verse, I'm going to put it on beat 3 every time, and really lock into that. And that takes a really high degree of skill and control. You have to be really comfortable with all the different sort of rhyming sounds and able to pull them in quickly. And so that, I think, would be the next evolution for you as you get more comfortable with this material, is kind of like getting really solid with being in control of the rhyming word placement. And I think what's great about that, being able to do that, is it's a way in which you're able to create a high degree of trust from your audience, right? Like, they trust that you are in control of what's happening, and that beyond the shadow of a doubt, you really know exactly what you're doing. And I remember hearing this thing once. I did this like poetry masterclass thing through the masterclass website. If any of you are familiar with that or have checked it out, I was gifted a year subscription to masterclass, and I did this poetry one. And one of the things that really stuck out to me from the teacher was, he was like, when you're new and you're first sharing your first poems, right? And this applies to rap too, or anything you're doing, songwriting. He was like, the audience, they don't necessarily love you yet, right? Because they don't know you. They've never heard you. But what they do love is poetry. That's why they're there to listen, right? And so it's like, if you go to a rap show, the opening act, local group you've never heard of, you don't love them yet. You've never heard them, but you love hip hop. That's why you're at the rap show. And so the best way that you can show your audience that you also love poetry, or that you also love rap, is through your craft, right? Because if they love, let's just stick with rap so I don't have to keep crossing between poetry and rap. But if they love rap, then they've listened to a lot of great rappers on record, right? Maybe they've listened to Nas, maybe they've listened to MF Doom, and they hear all this multisyllabic stuff, and they hear all these rhyme patterns. Even if they don't know how to define it or how to do it, they hear it and they recognize it, right? And they have a taste for it. And so if you're completely unknown to them, but you go out on stage and you display this high level of skill and this high level of control, and there's this multisyllabic rhyme thing happening in your material, and there's these different crazy rhyme patterns happening in your material, you're basically showing this audience who is completely unfamiliar with you that you too love hip hop, that you also love rap, right? And you actually love it so much that you've learned how to master these various aspects of the craft. And that's the quickest and most valuable and effective way to immediately establish trust with your audience, where they relax and they actually listen to you, and they then do fall in love with you, because they're like, oh, we both get it. We both like this thing. And so bringing it back to freestyling, and my advice to you, and why I'm so often like, you want to get to a point where you could put the rhyme on the 4 every time if you wanted to. Why? Because it displays to the audience that you're in control of what you're doing, and that you really appreciate the mechanics of what you're doing, and that you've really mastered some of those mechanics, right? And so immediately your audience is like, yo, this dude is serious. So LQL, well on your path, well on your journey, already sounding great, getting your rhyming vocabulary together, putting in the practice, which is everything. If you continue doing that, sky's the limit for you. And just start working on, when you feel ready, start working on kind of locking in that rhyme placement and getting some real clean couplets within the bar line.